everybody. Welcome to another episode of Checking In. I am alongside Ajah Hawley-Alexander. She is great. She's not only my friend, but she's a person who mentors me. She helps me. She does a lot of great things as far as branding, marketing. Hence my hoodie that I'm wearing today, representing that unguardable. You guys are going to have to go cop that, but we'll learn a little bit more about this hoodie and Ajah as a whole as this episode goes on. So Ajah, thanks for checking in.
Thanks for having me. This is a big deal. I'm looking forward to being on your show. So this is great.
Great. I'm happy to have you and talk about your journey as a whole. So as we reflect, Ajah does a lot of great things as far as branding, marketing, graphic design. Mm-hmm. I saw a throwback graphic that you did at FDU, and the come up was real, right? As far as figuring out, okay, I can do graphics, but how do I continue to grow in this space? And let me mention sports graphics at that. So let's talk about the journey and how you continue to evolve and get better and really work at expanding on your brand and your capabilities within making graphics and content.
So it's funny you mentioned that FDU graphic because FDU was the reason why I started getting into graphic designing. I always had an interest for it. I'm from Queens. I went to a vocational high school where media was integral in our education. At the time I had studied photography, but always had a want to explore graphic designing. And so when I got to FDU, particularly my graduate year, I was a graduate assistant for a year working in the athletic department. And we were playing schools. It was pretty early in the basketball seasons, and we had guaranteed games. And we were playing schools, and I remember this was, not to age myself here, but this was about like 4 or 5 years ago. But we were playing schools, and they would have these game day graphics. And at the time, this was like an anomaly. Like, not every school had it. This wasn't a norm. And I was like, well, why don't we have these? And they were like, resources. And I'm like, okay. Why can't we? And they're like, you can do whatever you want. I'm like, okay, I know what that means. So it was one of those things where it was like, if I wanted to see it, implemented, I had to do it. So that's honestly when I first really started dabbling into graphic designing. That was the first stab at it, really. And it kind of just grew from there.
What was it like given that reign? Kind of like, I take that story as almost like you can do whatever you want, because in a sense, like, we don't believe that you can make this or create this content for us and build on that. So what was it like taking the reins and being like, you know what, I'm going to create content, I'm going to do these graphics, and I'm going to do it good?
Yeah, I it's interesting because I'm always the type of person, I want to do more. I just don't see excuses as like the end all be all. I want to do various things. I want to be able to explore various things, and that just speaks to my creativity. And so originally when I had picked FDU to go to attend college, I knew I wanted to work in sports in some capacity, always had an interest in communications, telling stories, things like that. And working at a low major Division I school, you kind of get the freedoms to explore and wear different hats. And so, as long as I was willing to go the extra mile to produce content, to have these fresh ideas and actually execute them, my boss at the time was very much giving me the free rein to do so, was very supportive in how I was able to do that, served guidance in terms of kind of helping me maybe scale it down or refine it so that it could be a product that we could push out. But again, because of that type of environment, you really get to explore as far as your creativity allows you to.
So fast forward, we're doing these FDU graphics. You notice like, the beginning wasn't that great. But when did you realize like, I'm actually pretty good at this and I can be that content creator and that fresh outlook on how I want these products to be viewed in like modern culture? Because your graphics are dope now, and I'll place like a picture of them on the screen, but they are so, like I said, creative, fresh. They give you a different outlook and perspective on what a graphic can look like.
Yeah. It's so I've always worked in environments where I always say like it's the same type of profile athlete. It's the same type of chip on their shoulder. I've worked at Division I, low majors, mid majors. I've worked at D3 schools. I've worked in the WNBA and the NBA G League. And so when you think of these types of athletes, a lot of them have that chip on their shoulder. There's more to prove. And so when I think about graphics, right, it's a different way of telling a story. Originally was more of the journalism route, can write, was writing press releases, game recaps, game previews, and things like that. But I mean, the world is changing, right? We're not necessarily reading these extensive articles anymore to get our information. We're really turning to those types of graphics, whether it's even just highlights or videos or motion graphics. You know, it's not just static imagery too, or infographics that have an athlete, but then also show like numbers and stuff, and all of these various things. And then we can even get into illustrations. I mean, how many times do you see your favorite athlete as a cartoon now? So these various things. So always look at how can I evolve as the way that we digest information does. And that really allows me to be creative. It allows me to kind of push those boundaries a little bit and really just be innovative and fresh in how I tell those stories. I always like to advocate for the athletes that I represent. And graphic designing allows me to do that in a very unconventional, non-traditional way, in a way that interests them as well. I deal with a lot of millennials now, and they don't necessarily, like I said, those recaps aren't what they're reading, isn't what they're interested in. But the graphics are. The graphics are what they're reposting. The graphics are what they're proud of. So it's really just trying to keep with the times and stay current and continue to produce products that our players can be proud of.
And that's awesome, because a lot of what you're saying is so true as far as evolving with the times. I know if I see a long email, I'm like, let me get to the good part of the email because I don't want to read all this. But yeah, like I said, when I see an Ajah graphic pop up on my timeline, I'm like, okay, I'm checking the details. And that's what a lot of people, when they see your work, they're like, wow, her detailing is great, awesome. I love the colors that she chooses and uses or whatever. And like that creative space that you ultimately dive into with your graphics that, to me, makes them that much better. So kind of talking about marketing your brand and stuff like that, let's get into how did Ajah come about, and how did you grow that space and continue to expand on creating a brand for yourself?
So I think a lot of people don't actually know how Ajah came about, the actual name itself. So throwback all the way to high school. I went to school in the city, vocational high school, like aforementioned. And we were in gym class, and our gym class was multiple classes all in one. And so I'm sitting there as a freshman. My gym teacher is reading off attendance, and he keeps calling me Asia, Ajax, Ajah, variations of something that's not my name. So I'm like, okay. So after class, after a couple of classes, and I'm like, hey, my name is Ajah. He's like, I'm like, yeah, my name's Ajah. Can you stop calling me the other things that you're calling me? He's like Ajah. And I'm like what? He's like, Ajah. I'm like, sure, bro, if that's what, sure, call me that. Like, my name is Ajah, but if that's how you can remember, sure, go ahead. Not really realizing what he was saying. And so obviously in high school, like I said, multiple classes in one. I'm a freshman. Nobody really knows who I am. And so people start calling me Ajah in the hallways. And I'm like, hey, at least they're calling me something that's my name, not, a consonant or whatever. So, I started going with it. And then after a while, people start calling me Duh for short. And I'm like, okay, well, this is cool. I've never really had a nickname growing up, so this is actually really cool. At the time, MySpace and all these other social media platforms where you kind of like create yourself in these spaces. Being in high school, it's like your new identity. So now I'm in high school, I got this cool nickname and all this other stuff. So fast forward, Ajah is actually a word, and it's spelled, I know, right? Same thing I thought.
Wow.
So it's spelled Agita, I think. I can't remember the definition. I can't remember. We can maybe have that flash up on the screen or something. But
wow, you took that and you flipped that.
Yeah, and so innocently, because I thought it was my name and then the Duh, D-U-H. So it became my at names and stuff like that. And that's really kind of, like high school is where, like I said, you're reinventing yourself. So that's kind of how the brand came about. it was just this idea of that's kind of who I've been for a while. Even took me into college. People were calling me Duh. I was an RA. People were calling me RA Duh. Like it was a thing. So that's kind of how it came about.
First of all, greatest story ever, because even as, like I said, friend of like 2 years now, I had no idea, when I thought, I'm like, she's just Ajah Duh. And like, you take it and you run with it. And when you see a Ajah Duh graphic pop up, you like, oh, that's my girl right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the brands in itself, like just graphic designing, I started it when maybe 3 years ago now. I can't remember, like as an actual Instagram page, if you will. Like I feel like as a brand, you are your brand. If you walk into a room with 200 people, that first impression, like that's your brand. But in terms of the actual like designing page, that started about maybe like 2-3 years ago. Calls it Ajah Duh Graphics. Not very clever there, but it became an outlet for me to express creativity in a way that I didn't feel like I was able to professionally. At the time in my career, I just wanted to just kind of create content that I didn't necessarily get to do through my job at the time, and still wanted to be able to have an outlet where I can be creative and kind of tell that type of story in a different way. And it really grew from there. When I first started it, I was making these illustrations, a lot of WNBA posts, a lot of basketball players that I liked, very unheralded in that regard. But just kind of showing a different type of athlete, a different type of celebrity, I guess, that just didn't get the shine or the accolades that I felt like they were deserving. And just, like I said, having that chip on their shoulder. And like I said, I started it. It wasn't for like popularity or anything. There was definitely no monetary gain at all. It just kind of started off as something that I like to do. And from there, hearing feedback from people like, oh, I love this page that you create. I'm like, stop it. I'm embarrassed, but thank you. It went from there, and with the merch and stuff like that, again, it really came from people saying, hey, I want to wear this. And I'm like, what? You want to wear my stuff?
My stuff?
Like, what? I'm embarrassed again. But that's really how it really just came about.
And that's an amazing story, right? Something that's like a small passion for you, but an outlet to grow and to something that's great and still expanding. Like, I feel like your brand is getting bigger and bigger by the day. And especially to me during quarantine, when I've been seeing you post all this content and it being reciprocated and getting that amazing feedback. Or like when people see my podcast cover, they're like, who made that? I'm like, and it's great, right?
So dope.
Yeah, because I'm like, it's so me. And I think that's something that you hit like right on the head, is like nailing the person in this cartoonish way as far as like figures and all that stuff. Like I said, the detailing is amazing. So kind of aside from your brand, like we said, we're expanding and you're continuing to market yourself. Where do you see Ajah Duh going? Because, it's something that you didn't know was going to be a thing, but now that it is a thing, like, where is the sky? We're making merch now, got all these graphics on your page, like.
Yeah. It's funny because I was always the type of person, the type of professional where you can ask me your 5-year plan. And I was like, I got this, and this. I can tell you job titles, locations, how it's going to look, where it's going to be, everything to the T. And not necessarily that way anymore. Because sometimes we can get so hung up on what we envision success to be, or where we envision where we should be in order to validate things that we see or things that we believe in it and what have you. And so it's hard for me to answer that question in all honesty. And you sent me this question, I still don't know how to answer it. But because it's like, inadvertently, you can limit yourself, right? You can say, I want to be here, but you can say, I want to be here in maybe a year, and in 3 months you could get there. Or, 11 months down the line, you can say, I don't even want to be there anymore, because your values and your morals and things like that can change. And so when I look at my page, it honestly started off so organically and so genuine. And I don't want to lose sight of that, you know, like I don't want to put out content just to put out content, you know, like you're right. Like during quarantine, I've been able to push out more content at a higher rate, a higher volume. But there are times, you know, throughout the season that I'm not able to put out content as frequent as I am now. And thankfully, you know, my followers and just fans of the page still support the content when it comes out and what it looks like, what it does. You know, I express myself in different ways through different types of illustrations, through different types of graphic designing, and people still support it regardless of, you know, like I said, how frequently it comes out. And so, you know, the merch is cool. The merch is really cool. And I've also began to take on projects where people are like, can you do a podcast cover for me? Or now I have this brand. Oh my goodness. So many people are starting brands now. You know, I think about all the services that we utilize. I literally can say I have a friend for almost everything, right? They have their own personal brands. I think that's great. So I've been taking the time out to help really conceptualize ideas that people have, whether it's podcasts, whether it's brand development, you know, things like that. And so I say all of that to say, I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go, you know, but day to day, you know, I just hope that I can continue to keep those ties organic and genuine. And, you know, I'll continue to put out merch, of course, you know, continue to put my art out there. But again, I don't ever want to get caught up in trying to just put things out just to put things out, or say I want to hit 5,000 followers by the end of such and such, and just kind of doing that so very disingenuous. And so, like I said, I don't know. I don't know what's next. But I do know from a personal standpoint, I do want to continue to just delve into different types of graphic designing. I've been dabbling more into animation.
I love that. Yeah, you've been putting video graphics together too.
Yeah.
That's part of like your evolution.
Yeah, I want to get more into motion and animation and video highlights and stuff like that. And just really just kind of hone in on those things so that I can offer more of a wider skill set to people when they come to me and say, hey, I want to do this. And I'm looking at them like, what, you want to do all of that? You know, but the more I continue to strengthen that skill set, the more I can further really put their visions and stuff like that to motion, you know?
And I think that's great as far as the organic growth goes, and not trying to hinder yourself, but then placing yourself on this scale, like if I do reach this or if I don't, like I don't want to take the passion away from because I'm stressing myself out to have this perfect brand. So I do love the way that you describe that, where, hey, I don't know. And it also tells people who are watching this that it's okay to not know where you want to take your brand, your marketing, or whatever, you know, as long as you're doing it with a passion for it, really. So I do appreciate that insight and perspective on Ajah. So, is there anyone who retweeted like a picture of yours or something like that and you're like, oh my gosh, they posted my stuff?
Man, that's singling out a bunch of
okay, just not singling out people here, but just name one where it's like, ooh, that was cool, that was really cool, they saw it.
I've had a lot of those moments. I think it's because naturally I'm a dramatic person, and I'm very something, and I'm just like, everything deserves a reaction in some way. So I'll say that. But when I first started my page, I made a illustration of Allen Iverson when he was at Georgetown, and I'm a huge Big East fan. Like I said, they're very much chip on their shoulder type of athlete. Like, people disrespect the Big East in many ways, and it really hurts. It really does. Okay. But I made this graphic of Allen Iverson, and went in a Georgetown jersey, and they reposted it, and I was like, oh, whoa there, like, what's going on? I opened my Instagram, and all of a sudden I had all these likes, and I was like, what just happened? Like, I just went to go get a sandwich. I come back and I'm like, what's going on here? And it was like, I think it was like a fan art Friday or something. So it was a great way to cap off the week. But that happened. That was like the first time in this aspect. And I was like, whoa, this is huge. But there's been athletes that I just make illustrations for, and they don't ask me to do it. I just do it because I just want to. Yeah. And they'll repost my stuff. And I'm like, this isn't happening. like I said, I'm a dramatic person. So I'll like open up my phone and I'm like, where all these likes come from? Where all these like follows come from? And I'm like, what? This didn't really happen. So I like drop my phone and like go get some water or something. So I'm like, what? Or I'll text you and I'm like, did this just happen? Or you'll text me like, did you see what happened? And I'm like, nah, what just happened? So
I know, we be on it.
Yeah, seriously. So honestly, anytime like, you know, I don't want, like I said, I don't want to get like fixated on like follows or type of status or anything like that. And of course, if a WNBA player like reposts my stuff, I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Like, I'm such a fan. Like, I'm a fan. So that's always cool. But honestly, I mean, it's always a dope feeling just have anybody really. You know, people are buying the merch now, and people just take selfies and have little photo shoots and stuff with my stuff on. You know, yes. And that just feels good because, again, this is like my art. This is like my baby. This is like my this was on my vision board, you know, years ago, and people are bringing this into fruition for me. You know, it's not just me. So anytime anybody shows support in any type of capacity, like I said, I'm just like, this can't be happening. Like, this is so dope. You know, people want to do it genuinely. It's not me saying, hey, can you do this? It's just them wanting to do it.
Right. And I mean, what more can we say? We appreciate what you do because it is, like we said, bringing a different perspective. Can you show your shirt just a little bit?
This is my shirt here. And my hair's like in the way. This is like my stay-at-home Hooper shirt. It's inspired by me. It's like hard to see. But it's really me because unbeknownst to many people, I actually don't play basketball. I'm actually not that great. In fact, I'm not good.
Yeah, when I first met you, Coach Dave was teaching you about what the lines meant on the basketball court. And I'm like, dang, she don't even know what like the lines and
I didn't know what the low block was. I
was like, she don't know what the block is, but
yeah,
great writer and stuff. Whoa.
I remember what game was that when you I remember because like I said, I started off in writing, so I would always write the game recaps and stuff. So for Sacred Heart, there was a game, I wish I could remember the game, but I had said you had like intercepted and like plugged the passing lane.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes. And the fact that I was able to use that terminology in my recap.
I think I got like a big time steal or something like that.
It was like a game winning play or whatever. And like I remember like Coach Mandy came into the office like, you wrote this? You said this? This is your words? I was like, yeah, I'm so proud of you. She like gave me this huge hug. I was like, oh my God, stop, can't handle it. But yeah, I'm not a hooper. I wish I was. You guys are super cool, but I'm not.
I mean, I think that's hilarious because everything that you evoke with basketball, unguardable, stay-at-home hooper, we would have thought that you was out here getting buckets. But that doesn't mean that you're still, you know, learning the terminology, hashtag big guard and all those other things.
I know, that's like my bucket getter, big guard, like my favorite terms. I feel like they really can translate it to everyday life. Like, you know, it's not just basketball. Like, I'm a huge advocate for athletes and student athletes. I think student athletes are amazing. I always think about my time, like I said, when I was working in collegiate athletics with low major Division I athletes, D3 athletes, and like I said, in the professional ranks now. But you guys just do things like you guys will play a game, have like a coach on the sideline screaming at you, get on a bus, open up a textbook, and you're doing homework. And it's like, what? That's like on a 10-hour bus ride back to, you know, campus, you know, and then you have class like in like several hours, or just like the fact that you guys can go on a court and just just be scrutinized for the entire time by people that don't even know you, and then get on social media and then be scrutinized even more, you know, like, and then live a normal life, you know, or just student athletes in general, like in college. College is the most, in my opinion, one of the most impressionable times in your life. You know, when you're younger, people are like, just get to college, go to college. And then when you're in college, it's like, now what? So I just feel like doing all of those things plus being an athlete at the same time, I love it. Like, I am a huge fan because I just feel like you guys do amazing things. And a lot of times it goes unnoticed and people don't understand it. And you guys just, like I said, evolve from it, develop, grow, and are able to share these stories that motivate and teach. And I just think it's honestly amazing.
And I think it's amazing how you're able to translate that into your work in a different way. And like we said, it all comes full circle into telling that story of who we are as athletes, former athlete here, current athletes, but really, just doing your thing with your graphics. So I thank you for the time. Let's drop the pin where we can tell people where they can cop this hoodie and they can look into your graphics and inquire about things so they can be hooked up by Ajah Dub.
So yeah, you can definitely follow the Instagram page. It's at Ajah Graphics, AJAHDUH Graphics. I'm not going to spell that because I feel like I'll butcher that. But Ajah Graphics, and then my personal page is at Ajah AJAHDUH.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for checking in once again. Go cop that unguardable, stay at home hooper, because we know we in some times right now where you need to feel unguardable, and where we're supposed to be staying at home, So, yeah. Alrighty, guys. Thanks, guys, for another great episode of Checking In.
Thanks.